Shipwrecks, Naufragios, written by Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. The Spanish explorer Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca was born in Jerez de la Frontera, Spain, into a family that took the title Cabeza de Vaca, head of a cow, from his mother's side of the family. In 1527, Cabeza de Vaca was appointed the treasurer of a 300-man royal expedition to Florida that was led by Pánfilo de Narváez. In April of 1528, the expedition sailed into Tampa Bay, and they began an overland march to Apalachee Bay, and then attempted to reach Mexico in makeshift boats. Separated from Pánfilo de Narváez, Cabeza de Vaca led a small band of survivors of the expedition. They were called Dorantes, Castillo, and Estebanico, an African slave, and they began a journey across what are now the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. In 1536, they reached a Spanish settlement on the Sinaloa River in Mexico, and 1 year later, in 1537, and after 9 years, Cabeza de Vaca returned to Spain, and he was rewarded with an appointment as a governor of Rio de la Plata, now known as Paraguay. For historians, Cabeza de Vaca's importance comes from his having been the first European to travel to the southwestern of the USA, and the first one to write reports that increased exploration of the region, called the New Spain. This book, Naufragios or Shipwrecks, describes a disastrous expedition led by the veteran conquistador Pánfilo de Narváez, beginning with the departure from Spain in 1527 and ending with Cabeza de Vaca's arrival at Lisbon in 1537. Cabeza de Vaca in this book explained early problems in the Caribbean involving the desertion of men at Santo Domingo, the loss of 2 ships to a hurricane and restocking supplies, before describing the eventual arrival on the Florida coast during Holy Week of 1528. Pánfilo de Narváez then split the expedition into 2 groups. He marched inland with 300 men in search of gold, arranging to meet the remaining 100 men with the ships farther along the coast towards Mexico. Both groups had no further contact, and over a period of 5 or 6 years, the European died of disease, drowned, were killed by Indians, ate each other. 4 men of the expedition were captive: Cabeza de Vaca, Andrés Dorantes, Alonso Castillo, and the African slave called Estebanico, and they managed to escape from captivity among different Indian tribes along the coast. Thanks to the leadership of Cabeza de Vaca, they then headed inland again, traveling west from tribe to tribe. They gained a reputation as doctors or shamans who performed miracles with the help of God. This status led to the Indians to guide them to the Pacific coast, where they encountered the Spanish slaving parties. Cabeza de Vaca then returned to Spain, while Dorantes tried to do so, but he failed. Castillo remained in Mexico, and Estebanico was killed on a later expedition. This book, Shipwrecks, known in Spanish as Naufragios, came to existence both as an informative account of the events in Narváez's expeditions into the USA and a service to the King of Spain. It was necessary to narrate the episodes of the expedition during the first years of the Spanish conquest. The experiences of Cabeza de Vaca establish an interpretation of his book as an ethnographic work. Shipwrecks is written in a solid and expensive language with a considerable stylistic range. At the same time, the language that Cabeza de Vaca uses lacks of refinement. The narrative is not always logically divided into chapters. The chapters are unequal in length, and the titles often correspond to the content of the previous chapter. The book is replete with highly long periods, with little internal cohesion, tedious repetitions, and complex ways of converging dialogue through indirect speech. Thanks for watching.